This is the Marlin MXLR 308 lever action rifle that the community has been waiting for a long time for and has just been added to Tarkov 1.0. You're about to hear this gun in raid constantly because it completely changes the questing meta through some of Tarkov's most irritating tasks. Why is that? Because it's classified as a bolt action rifle for the purposes of the game. This means that it works with tasks like Tarkov Shooter and Shooterborn in Heaven, which are typically some of Tarkov's most time-consuming tasks because getting headshots and doing other various things with bolt-action rifles usually puts you at a serious disadvantage. However, unlike other bolt-action rifles, the fire rate of the Marlin MXLR looks like this. So this puts it head and shoulders above any other rifle within this particular category. Now, a rifle is only as good as its ammo, and yes, we've got a good fire rate, but what bullets can we put in this thing? There are two. They've already been nerfed actually in terms of access. So the first one is accessible over on Jaeger 2. It's called 308 ME LOKT, and this is a soft point round which deals 96 damage and has 24 pen. This means that it'll go through class 3 armor some of the time on the first hit, about 30%, and won't really deal with class 4 at all, which is why this one's very much inferior. Now, the other one, the 308 ME, this used to be on Jaeger 2 as well, but this has been moved up to Mechanic 2, so this is effectively a minimum floor of level 20 that you need. This one's just called 308 ME, and this is where the Marlin starts to get really quite good. 80 damage and 42 penetration puts it in the same ballpark as some of the decent 7.62x51 NATO rounds like M80. And this does allow it to go through class 4 armor on one shot, and it'll headshot through helmets as well, so long as you don't get a ricochet up to class 4 as well. So you'll need level 20 for this. They cost 500 a round, but I think it's probably well worth buying. And you may also notice that these bullets are pretty quick as well, 838 meters per second, so this is actually going to be okay for getting those headshots over long ranges that you need for some of these quests. The Marlin itself you get on Jaeger 2 as well, and interestingly you can't put any other rounds into this gun other than these two. None of the 7.62x51 NATO rounds are compatible with this weapon at the moment. I think this might be a balancing choice rather than a realism one. Although I know there are differences between these two calibers in real life, the fact that this gun has its own ammo means that you can have something fairly strong like 308 ME on level 2 traders without it causing problems with other guns. The issue with ammo like M80 is that it's available for weapons that go full auto like the SCAR and the MDR, so putting that early on in the traders just kind of breaks the balance. So as for the Marlin itself, as I said, you can get this from Jaeger 2. It costs 45,000 rubles, which isn't that bad. You start off with this iron sight version of the Marlin, and you can't upgrade this really at all until you get to Mechanic 2. None of the parts you can buy until you get to him. The biggest problem with this is that you can't get access to this thing, which is the Ranger Point Precision Rhino 5-inch scope rail. Now, people are selling these on the flea. The price is coming down as people flip them, but they are only supposed to cost 2,000 rubles, and people are selling them for 20k. So it is a bit expensive, makes the gun 65k rather than 45k, but I think it probably is well worth it because I don't think the iron sights on the Marlin are actually that good. Funnily enough, on the basic version, you can actually add a bipod from Skier 2 if you really want to. And as a reminder, this thing reduces recoil by 75%, which for this gun doesn't matter too much because it's a repeater, but it means that you can really set up with this thing if you want to, even with its default configuration. Now, if you want to do anything from here, as I said, you need Mechanic 2, and that opens up a whole bunch of different handguards. You get the ELG M-Lock in the two different colors at Mechanic 2, and you get these other ones at Mechanic 3. Interestingly though, these two are the ones with the highest ergo. So personally, I would just plumb for one of these. You don't really care about recoil on a lever action rifle, so instead we're just going to focus on adding as much ergonomics as we can to get our ADS speed working. And add the ELG M-Lock like this, and then under here you can add the regular set of foregrips. So what I would probably do if you just want bang for buck, just add the Knight's vertical foregrip because this gives you 7 ergonomics. Technically the best in slot would be something like the SI Cobra to give you +9. It's just not really worth it because you're paying for some of that recoil reduction as well at the same time. Now elsewhere on the weapon there are a few other little bits you can do around the edges. You can add a different stock at Mechanic level 2 which adds 3 more ergonomics, one of these ones, and then at Mechanic level 3 you can add another stock that adds another 2 ergo, but it really isn't that big of a deal. I've been using this version and it's pretty much fine, but for testing I did actually buy one of these off the flea market to check out how good the ergo can be. Before we get to that test, you can buy some triggers that add 2 ergonomics here, and then that's really it. There's nothing that you can put on the barrel, there's no suppressors or anything, so some of the Tarkov shooters that require a suppressor, you obviously won't be able to do with the Marlin MXLR because it can't mount one. But for everything else, this is going to be pretty good. One other really cool feature of the handguard is that you can add a little mount and then put a laser on. This makes it a lot easier to shoot in close combat if you do get caught short. I do want to point out here that there has been a little bit of a change with these. Pretty much all the mounts now take off a tiny little bit of ergonomics. So rather than being 0, they're almost all either minus 0.1 or minus 0.2, including our beloved M-Lock cantilever mount that used to be +1. We used to plaster these all over our weapons, but that has been reduced down to minus 0.1. Probably for the best, means that we don't use the SII handguard for the M4 anymore and put them all over the place just to get 4 free ergo, but never mind. So just before we get onto the performance, I have been using this a little bit and trying to use it for things like the Tarkov Shooter Part 3. And in close combat, I think this gun can lead you into a false sense of security. Because you have a decent fire rate on this thing, it is tempted just to try and face check guys with full auto weapons. Pro tip, usually that's not going to work unless you are a really good shot and able to get the headshots, because even with 308 ME, you're still going to have to take 2 shots to the chest to kill them, and that's if you don't accidentally hit arms or stomach or, heaven forbid, just miss. The fire rate on this thing kind of tempts you to just want to keep shooting over and over again, but you will lose to people on full auto, but it's also a little bit quick to want to do a peek and shoot. I think the best way to play it is probably to just pretend that you are using bolt action and then only use the extra fast repeater reloading speed when you really need to, as opposed to trying to just force it. I had somebody bothering me with the Marlin and he found out the hard way that it just loses to an AK-74U. Where the... Get out of here! So are the mods actually worth it? Well, I went to go and check out various bits of the performance. If you mod it all out, I was missing 2 ergo from the trigger because I couldn't buy it, it wasn't on the fleet, and I'm not mechanic level 3, but that's only 2 ergonomics, so I don't think it's going to make that much difference. So modding it all out, I was getting an ADS in 12 frames at 60 FPS, rather than 16 with the dots, so that's about 200 milliseconds up to 260, and I measured this by putting a Cobra sight on it and checking as soon as the dot appears on the screen to make it fair between the two. So this isn't the full ADS speed, so as you can see, it is actually quite slow. And that was one of the problems that I had with it. So if you are using a sight, I think it is worth putting on the handguard and the vertical foregrip. Then in terms of ADS time, the extra ergonomics typically doesn't tend to do that much here. The ability to hold a weapon up and use your arm stamina is mostly determined by weight, and the modded gun is actually very slightly heavier. Ergonomics does have some impact, so we actually ended up holding the gun up for 47 seconds with the base version rather than 45 with the modded version, but it's very, very close. Accuracy wise, this guy starts off with a really great 1.33 MOA, so this is really nice for shooting over long-ish ranges. Up to 100-200 meters would be perfectly fine. I was using a 50 meter zero and I gave it a couple of different practice shots with the irons and with the TAC 30, and it seems pretty good. It seems to fly pretty straight as well, and given both bullets are around the right muzzle velocity for the gun itself, there shouldn't be any weird zeroing issues here either, like you do get with some other guns. For example, the VPO, if you're using an ammo like APM, that differs very much from the default round. So as I said, you're probably going to hear this all over your raids soon, because people are going to be doing Shooter Born in Heaven and all the Tarkov shooters with it, and just because of the fact that you get to take an easy and quick follow-up shot with a decent ammo that will go through class 4 helmets, this seems like the perfect rifle to do it with. I have been giving it a go myself to try to get through some of the Tarkov shooters. I am definitely not the best bolty shooter by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm kind of a bit of a semi-auto hater as well, so this gun is really not well suited to my hands. But maybe you can learn something about what not to do from the experiences I've had so far. Was there a guy right there? That player with a lever action. They killed the scav. Bloody hell. Damn it, there were 2 people. Oh, my favourite spawn. Like, how's he not dead? I don't understand. I don't understand. I can't use this gun. I genuinely can't use this gun. I feel like I should just stop aiming. I genuinely think I need to hipfire it and just stop worrying about ADSing. Because the sight moving around every time he shoots and, like, you know, racks the lever action, I can't aim it. I think that's easier. Oh no, we got killed by someone else.
Ах ты ебагала!
Oh man. I really... I really need to learn to aim. Die, please! Please, just die! Holy crap. Oh, I'd rather have a pump action shotgun. Seriously, I'd rather have a pump action shotgun.